Hi viewers, my name is Dr.Anusha Abraham. I am presently working in Government Medical College Thrissur, Anatomy Department. So I am planning to start a new YouTube channel named Anatomy in a Capsule. So in that I will be discussing some important topics in anatomy. So and I will be dealing with some basic concepts in anatomy. So at the beginning of each session, I thought I'll begin with some set of questions, the answers of which I will be discussing at the end of the session. So hope all of you will support my video. So today I thought I'll begin with a small but somewhat important topic. It's nothing but venous drainage of upper limb or veins of upper limb. So before starting, I'll ask some of the questions related to this topic. So just try to answer now only. I hope at the end of the session you will be able to answer these questions. Okay, first of all, the question is, which is the vein which is most preferred for intravenous injection as well as taking blood? The most preferred vein. Next question. Which is the vein which is mostly preferred for arteriovenous fistula or AV fistula in case of chronic renal failure patients for doing hemodialysis? So which is that vein for AV fistula? Next question. Which group of lymph nodes are related to basilic vein above the elbow? Basilic vein above the elbow. Next question. Which is the vein which is most preferred for cardiac catheterization? Or more specifically, I am asking cephalic or basilic, which is more preferred for cardiac catheterization? Next question. In deltopectoral groove, cephalic vein is accompanied by two structures. Name which are they? Again, the last question. In case of CA breast and all, we know axillary lymph nodes also can be involved. So in that case, sometimes what happens is that there can be edema of the upper limb. So what is the reason for that edema of the upper limb? Okay, so these are some of the questions. So try answering this. So we'll begin with our session. Okay, the veins of upper limb. So as we know, the veins of upper limb can be broadly divided into superficial set of veins and deep set of veins. We know both this set of veins are provided with valves. We know the function of valves is nothing but ensuring unidirectional flow. Yes. Now, discussing about the superficial veins. So, where are these superficial veins present? Superficial veins are present in the superficial fascia. That means just deep to skin, we have the superficial fascia. So, these are seen in the superficial fascia. They are variable in disposition. Then, usually it will be accompanied by cutaneous nerves. And so, these are provided with valves, as I told earlier. Also, it will be accompanied by superficial lymphatics also. Coming to deep veins. On the contrary, the deep veins will be seen deep to deep fascia. Usually, it will be accompanying the arteries. And usually, the deep veins will be seen as pairs. We call it as venae committens. So, 2 in number it will be there. Exception is the axillary vein. Axillary vein is a deep vein, but there is only a single axillary vein. So that is about deep veins. They are also provided with valves. Okay. Now we will be individually discussing the veins, especially. Okay. So we will begin with the superficial veins. As we know, the main superficial veins which we can see in the upper limb are cephalic vein, basilic vein, median cubital vein, and another vein known as median vein of fora. So all these we can say superficial veins. Even another venous network known as dorsal venous network also we can include in this group of veins. So before going individually to these veins, it's very important to discuss about dorsal venous network. So what is dorsal venous network, how is it formed, etc. So for that purpose, roughly I have drawn the figure of a hand to show you how the dorsal venous network is formed. So this is a posterior aspect of the hand. That means this is the dorsum of the hand. So dorsal venous network is seen in the superficial fascia of the dorsum of the hand. As you can see this is the dorsal venous network. It is formed by joining of 3 dorsal metacarpal veins. So these 3 dorsal metacarpal veins is formed by joining of these. Now we will see how these dorsal metacarpal veins are formed. These are formed, you can see these are the medial 4 fingers. So from the adjacent sides of these 4 fingers, or we can specifically say the digital veins, dorsal digital veins of the adjacent sides, draining the adjacent sides of 2nd and 3rd, 3rd and 4th, and 4th and 5th. All these 3. So like that, 1st, 2nd and 3rd dorsal metacarpal veins are formed, which in turn join to form the dorsal venous network. Okay, hope you understood. That's how dorsal venous network is formed. Now, we'll discuss the first important vein, the cephalic vein. Before that, just I have drawn 2 diagrams of the upper limb. You can see this one and this one. So this is the posterior aspect. Keep in mind, this is the posterior aspect and this is the anterior aspect. Coming to the posterior aspect, so we'll be starting from the posterior aspect. So cephalic vein. So what do you know about cephalic vein? Cephalic vein is also known as the preaxial vein of the upper limb. It will be beginning from the dorsal venous network, ending in the main vein of the upper limb, which is known as axillary vein. So we have discussed about superficial as well as deep veins, right? So finally, all the veins from the upper limb, finally it will be draining into this axillary vein. So from the superficial and deep are connected by perforator veins, but finally the venous drainage into the main vein, that is the axillary vein. So cephalic vein originates from dorsal venous network and ends in axillary vein. So we'll see how it's coming. Origin of cephalic vein. As we have discussed, this was the dorsal venous network. Origin of cephalic vein is from the lateral end of dorsal venous network. It is joined by the dorsal digital veins, which is seen on both sides of thumb as well as the radial side of index finger. So these are the dorsal digital veins on both sides of thumb, and this is the dorsal digital vein at the radial side of index finger. Both this will join with the lateral end of dorsal venous network to give origin to the cephalic vein. So this is how the cephalic vein originates. Now what happens? Anatomical snuff box. So just we can fully extend your thumb and see that we can see a triangular depression at the lateral end of the wrist. That is known as anatomical snuff box. So soon after the origin, so we saw this is the posterior aspect, this is the anterior aspect. So it originates from the lateral aspect of dorsal venous network, accompanied by the other veins which we have told earlier. Like that it originates. Then it is seen in the roof of this anatomical snuff box. Here it is related posterior to the styloid process of radius. Okay. Then what happens? After that, the cephalic vein is seen over the posterolateral aspect of the distal part of the forearm. You can see posterolateral aspect of the distal part of the forearm. This is the lateral and this is the medial. Now coming to the anterior aspect. It winds around this posterolateral aspect. Then we can see it anteriorly. Anteriorly it is seen. This is the lateral and this is the medial. So anteriorly it is seen below the elbow. We can see the cephalic vein is coming below the elbow like this. Then it is seen in front of the elbow region. That means in cubital fossa we can see the cephalic vein. So here it is accompanied by a nerve known as lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. That's an important relation. Then what happens? Yeah, before that, just you can see this is the bend of elbow. 2.5 centimeter below the bend of the elbow, we can see a vein is originating from the cephalic vein. That vein is known as median cubital vein. In detail, we'll be discussing in the soon we'll be discussing about this vein. So 2.5 centimeter below the bend of the elbow, it will be we can see a vein known as median cubital vein that will be joining another vein known as basilic vein medial. So in short, we can say it is a communicating vein. So all the blood from the cephalic vein is shunted to the basilic vein through this median cubital vein. Okay, so that about that vein it's important to say. Now then what happens to the cephalic vein? The cephalic vein ascends. So in the arm, what is the course we'll see? In the arm, we can see it along the lateral border of biceps muscle. We know in front of arm there is a muscle known as biceps brachii. So along the lateral border, it ascends, the cephalic vein. Then what happens is that here there is a major muscle known as pectoralis major muscle. So at the level of lower border of this pectoralis major muscle, we can see the cephalic vein will be piercing the deep fascia. Then it will be entering a groove known as deltopectoral groove between pectoralis major, and there is another muscle here known as deltoid muscle. So between that there is a groove. So the vein will be entering this groove known as deltopectoral groove. So there the cephalic vein is accompanied by two important structures. These are the deltopectoral group of lymph nodes and the deltoid branch of thoracoacromial artery. As you know, thoracoacromial artery is a branch of second part of axillary artery. So that you should keep in mind. That's the course in deltopectoral groove. Then what happens? After that, this cephalic vein will be piercing another fascia known as clavipectoral fascia. So it will be piercing clavipectoral fascia. Then what happens? It takes a sharp turn backwards or at an angle of 90 degree. What happened? It is finally draining into the main axillary vein. So that's its course. So in the deltopectoral groove we have seen, after that it pierces clavipectoral fascia, takes a sharp turn backwards at an angle of 90 degree. It is finally entering the axilla, and it is draining into the axillary vein. So this is the course of cephalic vein. Okay. So just highlighting the important points in cephalic vein. Origin is from the lateral end of dorsal venous arch, then related to anatomical snuff box, posterolateral aspect of forearm. Here we can see in the elbow region. So below that elbow, median cubital vein origin. Then what happens is that above the elbow, accompanied by a group of lymph nodes, ascends along the lateral border of biceps brachii, pierces the deep fascia at the lower border of pectoralis major, then deltopectoral groove. Then what happens? It pierces the clavipectoral fascia and finally drains into axillary vein. Now, the things like already I have told about a nerve. So in the region of cubital fossa, it is accompanied by lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. Another nerve accompanying is terminal part of radial nerve is also accompanying cephalic vein. Okay. Then tributaries of cephalic vein. So one of the main tributaries, accessory cephalic vein, and it is usually seen near the elbow. Okay. Now coming to the applied aspects related to cephalic vein. So in general, we can say the superficial veins. The applied aspect in common we can say because these are seen in superficial fascia, these veins are easily accessible. So in order for intravenous injection as well as for taking blood, etc., all these superficial veins can be used like cephalic, basilic, median cubital vein. So So like that, cephalic vein also we can say, since it is superficial vein, it is easily accessible and can be used for intravenous injection as well as taking blood. Now, in one important applied aspect related to cephalic vein is AV fistula. That means in case of chronic renal failure patients and all, hemodialysis have to be done. So what happens is that the impure blood, the waste blood has taken and the dialysis machine, and pure blood is returned back. So for that purpose, what we do is like a fistula is created, arteriovenous fistula. So what we do is this radial artery and cephalic vein. We know both these are seen in the lateral aspect. So at the lateral aspect of wrist, the radial artery and cephalic vein, an anastomosis is made. A fistula is created between these two, artery and vein. So what happens is that slowly from the artery to vein, blood flows. We know in the artery it's at high pressure, so the blood flows and the vein becomes distended and thickened, and slowly it becomes arterialized. This is known as arterialization of cephalic vein. Now what we do is we do venipuncture. So from that, through the cephalic vein, what we say, the impure blood is taken to the dialysis machine and the pure blood is returned back to the median cubital vein. So that for that AV fistula, cephalic vein and radial artery, that is the most preferred vein usually is the cephalic vein. Then another applied aspect related to that. So we discussed about the course. So in the region of clavicle, so just superficial to the clavicle, the cephalic vein has got a, there is a communicating vein between cephalic vein and the external jugular vein seen over neck. That is a communicating vein, superficial to the clavicle. So in some cases there can be rupture of this communicating vein. In that case, in case of fracture of clavicle and all, this communicating vein can be ruptured. That leads to hematoma. That is an applied aspect. Another thing is that because of this connection, suppose in case of conditions like CA breast, carcinoma breast, axillary lymph nodes and all may have to be removed. So in that case, sometimes a part of axillary vein also may have to be removed. So what happens? This drainage of upper limb, we know it's finally into axillary vein. So that drainage will be affected. So if this communicating vein is there, what happens? Through this, from the cephalic vein, the blood will be shunted to the external jugular vein. Thus, this is helpful. So the blood from the the drainage of the upper limb, even if an axillary vein is not present, it can be shunted to external jugular vein. So there is an applied aspect related to it. Okay. Now coming to the next vein, the basilic vein. So we'll see about the basilic vein. So again, the origin similar to cephalic vein, it is from the dorsal venous network. The only difference is that it is originating from the medial end of the dorsal venous network. We know this is the dorsal venous network. What happens is that the dorsal digital vein arising from the ulnar side of the little finger joins with the medial end of the dorsal venous network to give origin to the basilic vein. So that is about the origin of basilic vein. Now we will see again. We will start. This is the posterior aspect. This is the anterior aspect. So we can see this is the dorsal venous network. Basilic vein is originating from the medial end of the dorsal venous network. Then what happens? Slowly, it's seen along the posterior surface of the medial border of the forearm. It will be seen. Then slowly it is winding around this border and finally reaching anteriorly. Anteriorly it is seen just below the elbow. So just close to the elbow it will be seen anteriorly, and in the medial side of the cubital fossa it will be related. So here it is related to one nerve known as posterior branch of medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. So that is an important relation. Then what happens? This basilic vein, as I discussed earlier, the median cubital vein. So medial cubital vein is connecting the cephalic vein with the basilic vein. So 2.5 centimeter above the medial epicondyle, the basilic vein is joined by the medial cubital vein. So that is another aspect related to its course. Then what happens is that again above the elbow, this basilic vein is related to a group of lymph nodes known as supratrochlear lymph nodes or superficial cubital lymph nodes, or we can say epitrochlear lymph nodes. So the importance is that in case of syphilis and all, this group of lymph nodes are enlarged. So that is an important relation related to basilic. Then what happens? Then we know, as we have told earlier, there is a biceps brachii muscle, the basilic vein in the arm. It will be ascending along the medial border of the biceps brachii muscle. Then somewhere in the middle of the arm, it will be piercing the deep fascia, and it will be seen medial to an artery known as brachial artery. So, and we know this brachial artery is accompanied by the venae commitans. So we can say the brachial veins. It's like that. So it will be piercing the deep fascia in the middle of the arm, and it will be seen medial to brachial artery. Now what happens? Now there are, we can say, like two ways. So first thing is the basilic vein. We know this is there is a muscle here known as teres major muscle. So at the lower border of this teres major muscle, what happens is that this basilic vein joins with the two brachial veins to form the axillary vein. So that is one way. Another way is sometimes this basilic vein can continue directly as axillary vein at the lower border of teres major muscle. In that case, these brachial veins, which I told earlier, will be joining the axillary vein at the lower border of subscapularis muscle. So these two are terminations. So we know either the basilic vein joins with the brachial veins to form the axillary vein at the lower border of teres major, or it can continue as axillary vein at the lower border of teres major. In that case, the brachial veins will be joining the axillary vein at the lower border of subscapularis muscle. So just one thing I want to do. So unlike the cephalic vein, we can see the basilic vein is ending somewhat a straight course it has with the axillary vein, but the cephalic vein is taking a sharp turn backwards and ending. The difference is there. Okay, so this is about basilic vein. Just considering its tributaries, one tributary already we have seen. This is nothing but the medial cubital vein. We know it is joining the basilic vein. So as I have told earlier, it is connecting the cephalic and basilic vein. Another tributary is median vein of forearm. I will be discussing in the coming, discussing soon about that median vein of forearm. Okay. Then accompanying basilic vein, the nerves are, as I discussed, one is the posterior branch of medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. That will be usually seen in the cubital fossa. Another nerve is terminal part of dorsal branch of ulnar. So these are the nerves accompanying the basilic vein. Okay. Now coming to the applied aspects. As I told earlier, one of the main applied aspects is the intravenous injection as well as taking blood. Since it is a superficial vein, these are the important aspects. Another one important aspect. So basilic vein is preferred over cephalic vein for cardiac catheterization. So what happens is that in cardiac catheterization, a catheter is introduced into this vein, and finally this catheter has to reach the right side of the atrium. That's the purpose. So what happens then in basilic vein, how the catheter is inserted. So first we insert it through the basilic vein. Then we know the basilic vein is terminating an axillary vein. So it is the axillary vein, then subclavian vein, brachiocephalic vein, and finally the superior vena cava. So like that continuously the catheter can be introduced finally into the right atrium of heart. So why we can't use cephalic vein for this purpose? Because as we know, cephalic vein is joining the axillary vein by taking a sharp turn at an angle of 90 degrees like that. So what happens, like catheter can get blocked there. Unlike that, basilic veins has somewhat a straight course with the axillary vein, so the catheter can be easily passed into. Another reason for not using cephalic vein is that at the junction of the cephalic with the axillary vein there are valves. So these two reasons make it unsuitable for cardiac catheterization. I mean the cephalic vein. So that's about the basilic vein. Okay, now coming to the next vein, median cubital vein. So already we have discussed in short about this vein. So once more we'll see. We know median cubital vein is nothing but a communicating vein which is beginning from the cephalic vein. We know this is the cephalic and this is the basilic vein. So it will be beginning 2.5 cm below the bend of the elbow from the cephalic vein. Then it is seen up, it passes upwards and medially, and it will be ending 2.5 cm above the medial epicondyle and it will be ending in basilic vein. So this is the median cubital vein. So we can again see as the roof of the cubital fossa, this vein is related, and it will be in between the lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm and the medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. So the blood will be shunted from the cephalic to the basilic vein through this median cubital vein. Then we know this median cubital vein, deep to that. So deep to that we can see the bicipital aponeurosis. So from the deep side of this median cubital vein there is a perforator vein coming, and this perforator vein will be piercing this bicipital aponeurosis. So before that I should say this bicipital aponeurosis is separating this median cubital vein from brachial artery and median nerve beneath. So that you should keep in mind. And as I told earlier, this perforator vein, which is connecting this median cubital vein with deep veins, that is piercing this bicipital aponeurosis. So this aspect is very important because while taking blood, so this median cubital vein we know is a superficial vein, so it will be used for intravenous injection as well as for taking blood, etc. So once we take blood from this vein, because of this perforator vein piercing the bicipital aponeurosis, this vein does not slip away. So that aspect is very important. Does not slip away and it is fixed there. So this makes the median cubital vein ideal for intravenous injection as well as taking blood, etc. Also, we can say it's ideal for cardiac catheterization, blood transfusion, etc. So this does not slip away. That concept is very important. Also, we know since it is a superficial vein, it is easily accessible like that. Both this makes it ideal vein for intravenous injection, taking blood, etc. Okay. Then another aspect. So coming to the tributaries of median cubital vein, one important tributary is median antebrachial vein or median vein of forearm. We know it's originating from the superficial palmar plexus. Then it will be seen. It will originate from there. Then it will be seen in front of the forearm, and finally it will be joining the median cubital vein. So that is a tributary. So sometimes it can join the basilic vein. Earlier I have told it's a tributary of the basilic vein. In some cases like this, it will be this median vein of forearm will be coming, splitting and joining both basilic and cephalic. So different variations are there like that. So that is about the tributaries of median cubital vein. So coming to the applied aspects. So in short of median cubital vein is a communicating vein connecting the cephalic and basilic vein. I should keep in mind about the why it is ideal for intravenous injection. Then if median cubital vein is absent, we can say basilic is preferred over cephalic vein because it is basilic is a more efficient channel, and we know this basilic vein is having a straight course with the axillary vein. The cephalic, we know, is taking a sharp turn backwards at an angle of 90 degrees. It is straining into axillary vein. Okay. Now coming to the last vein, that is a median cubital vein. Okay, so we are now all with the superficial veins, moving on to the deep veins of upper limb. As I told earlier, deep veins include the venae committens. We know it is seen as pairs or known as venae committens. Usually will be seen deep to deep fascia accompanying the arteries. So usually all the deep veins we can say are seen as pairs except the axillary vein. So where all are these present? So we have discussed about dorsal digital veins here, right? So accompanying the dorsal digital veins, we can see the venae committens coming upwards. Coming upwards, it will be accompanying the superficial and deep palmar arches. Then coming again upwards, it will be accompanying venae committens accompanying radial arteries there, ulnar arteries there, brachial arteries there. So we can say the brachial veins, so accompanying the brachial arteries. And finally, we can the axillary vein. So there only one axillary vein is there. Now we'll be discussing about the axillary vein in detail. Axillary vein is the vein to which finally the blood from the whole of the upper limb is reaching the axillary vein. Axillary vein is usually seen medial to the axillary artery. Considering its origin and termination, it is originating from the lower border of teres major. We have already discussed basilic vein ending in axillary vein, etc. So its origin is from the lower border of teres major and ending in the outer border of first rib, and it is continuing as subclavian vein. So origin we have already discussed. So the basilic vein joins with the brachial veins at the lower border of teres major to form axillary vein, or basilic vein can continuous axillary vein at the lower border of teres major. In that case, the brachial veins will be joining at the lower border of subscapularis muscle. Okay. Now about its relation, as I told, it is related medial to the axillary artery, but it is not included in the axillary sheath. So what happens in case of venous return and all, the axillary vein is not compressed. So as the axillary vein is seen outside the axillary sheath, in case of increased venous return, it is not easily compressed. So very simple. Then medial to the axillary vein, we can see the medial cutaneous nerve of arm. That is an important relation. Lateral to that, we can see two nerves, ulnar nerve and medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. These are some important relation. Then coming to the one more thing, the tributaries of axillary vein. One important tributary already we have seen, the cephalic vein. The cephalic vein is a tributary. Other tributaries are the veins which are accompanying the branches of the axillary artery. So all these are tributaries of axillary vein. Now coming to the applied aspect of axillary vein, one is axillary vein thrombosis. In case of painters, etc., in case of overhead abduction, what happens is that the axillary vein, which is related to the first part of axillary artery, is compressed. What happens is that this subclavius muscle, during this overhead abduction, this first part of axillary artery is coming over this axillary, is compressing on this, and the subclavius muscle. So like the axillary vein is compressed by the subclavius muscle, and so this leads to formation of clot. We call it as thrombosis. So axillary vein thrombosis thus results. Okay, another applied aspect is that, so as I discussed earlier, in case of carcinoma breast and all, we know the axillary lymph nodes will be involved. So in some cases, the axillary lymph nodes also might have to be removed. In that case, a segment of axillary vein also sometimes will be removed. In that case, there can be venous stasis, and it can lead to edema of the upper limb. So again, this segment, since there can be the axillary vein thrombosis again results. and which finally leads to this venous stasis and edema of the upper. Okay, that's it. So we are coming to an end of the session. Now I will be discussing the questions which have initially asked. Okay, first, which is the vein most preferred for intravenous injection as well as taking blood? That is the median cubital vein. The answer also, there are two reasons as I have already discussed. One is the superficial vein, so it can be easily accessible. Then it does not slip away easily during this injection. Then next question, which is the vein which is most preferred for cardiac catheterization? It's nothing but the basilic vein. So, basilic vein is preferred over cephalic vein for cardiac catheterization. The reason I have to. Next, which is the vein we mainly use for this AV fistula in dialysis patients? It is the cephalic vein with the radial artery. AV fistula is made use of. Next, which is the group of lymph nodes, or which group of lymph nodes are accompanying the basilic vein above the elbow? It's nothing but the epitrochlear lymph nodes. Next, the two structures accompanying the cephalic vein in deltopectoral groove. One is the deltoid branch of the thoracoacromial artery and deltopectoral group of lymph nodes. Then next question was, as I told in says of CA breast, axillary lymph nodes are involved, and so once this axillary vein is related to apical, central and lateral group of lymph nodes. So what happens is that in this, once these lymph nodes are removed, a segment of vein also may have to be removed, and it can lead to thrombosis, and which leads to venous stasis and edema of the upper limb. So that's the apparatus. Okay. So these are the answers. So we have come to an end of this session. Hope you understood the class, and any questions, any doubts or questions, you can ask in the comment section. Also, you can suggest more topics which I need to cover in the coming sessions. So hope all of you will support my video. So I end with just a positive quote. We know there are good days as well as bad days in our life. So both these good days and bad days are temporary. So considering the good days, think like that, the good days are, even though it's temporary, good days will come again. In case of bad days, they are temporary, so it will pass on. Think positive, stay safe.